Obviously, endometriosis is we've been talking about how it's quite poorly understood and treated. And there's lots of different theories about what's going on, from alterations in enzymes that affect estrogen metabolism to kind of lower innate immunity. So and natural killer cells can be low, as well as autoimmunity potentially going on. Can you tell us about any of the sort of theories behind endometriosis and why it occurs that you find helpful when you're thinking about how to approach the person in front of you?
Yeah. I think a little bit of myth busting is quite important here, because a lot of what you see in traditional texts or a quick AI search, which Google love to give you now, and you suddenly an expert in 2 minutes, which is just not the case, unfortunately.
Mm.
One of the key things that you'll see is retrograde menstruation is a very strong theory behind that, and that's essentially some of the endometrial cells that are carried up the fallopian tubes in the blood during menstruation. They go the opposite direction, and then they come out through the other areas of the reproductive system, like the fallopian tubes and the other areas that surround the pelvic cavity. That is true, but it's also true to say that it occurs in most women, and the immune system is usually just clearing up that silently behind the scenes, and we don't know anything about it. So it's obviously shedding every month when we're not making a baby, and the womb isn't preparing for that. So we shed our uterus lining. That's what we do, and we bleed. So that's just one thing. I think it's important to mention that retrograde menstruation is very common. But in endometriosis, there is an immune correlation, and it's an immune misfiring, let's say. Um, Estrogen dominance is one of the key other areas that you'll hear and you'll read. Estrogen stimulates the endometriosis lesions. And estrogen is good to say. Estrogen does not cause endometriosis. Estrogen is part of that hormonal endocrine picture, that landscape, and it may be that someone with endometriosis does have raised estrogen in their bloods when they get their bloods analyzed, which I really advocate to do, but it's not the only cause. Obviously, one of the sort of more older theories, perhaps a little bit outdated but still relevant, is the Samson theory as well, which is again the retrograde menstruation, that the cells plant and grow outside the uterus, leading to pain and inflammation and fertility issues. The newer body of research, which I'm really interested in, and it's echoing the work of Lara Brydon, who's an amazing naturopath based out in New Zealand, is that, from the latest research, it's very much to do with, as you were mentioning, the natural killer cells. It's an immune dysfunction disorder, and yes, we can agree it's an inflammatory disorder. So it causes inflammation that